sleepy feeling. So we'll believe that we have just started the second session, morning session. So now let me invite Mr. N.S. Kishore Kumar. He is a seasoned banker. Yes, sir.
Good morning and good afternoon, friends. The desired one as well as the real one. My object here in CAIIB was my teacher, and I attribute my success in CFP to Mr. Keyur's wonderful teaching, as many of you are already witness to. You already heard many speakers, and many more will interact with you and let you know what various dimensions of financial planning. My job is to just focus on certain emerging dimensions which are I'll just flag certain issues. These are very difficult times, so let's not assume that everything will be hunky-dory going forward in the financial services sector. Let's not get carried away by what's going to happen in some time. So in difficult times, in challenging times where technology and radical change is going to happen, our customers, their expectations and the methods of delivery of our services to meet those expectations will be dramatically different. And trust me, many of us would not even have thought of what's likely to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, so we have to be prepared. Now, in this endeavor to give cutting-edge financial planning services, the good old 3 C's are very critical, which I'll just mention here. Namely, competence, self-explanatory. Now, competence is a very, very dynamic, concept, as you will appreciate. As preparation for CFP, we need to be competent. Then, during the course of the exam, we need to be competent. To get the qualification, we need to be competent. But competence doesn't end there, and competence cannot be obtained just by acquiring some few. If you pardon my being very candid, just by acquiring a few, continuing education, renewal points from an institute. That's not what exactly we are talking about. Competence. Competence is a highly dynamic thing, and virtually daily you have to be on the, key. You have to be extremely alert and keep understanding what's happening in the environment. So, when I'm talking of competence, competence is different from certification. So many of us make a mistake that certification is just the first battle which needs to be won, but competence is again it's an ongoing battle. I'm sure you will agree with that thing. Then we come to character. Again, in troubled times, what distinguishes the long-run successful person from somebody who's interested in a short-run successful endeavor or career is strength of character. Now, in character, you can assume many other dimensions which are covered in character. Basically, what I'm talking about is transparency and genuine desire to help the customer. So that is why, as you know, in fact, the very topic of this thing is a journey from an agent to a financial advisor and a financial planner. Now, an agent, all of us, many of people would have been agents and are continuing to be agents, and that's very good because somebody has to intermediate and bring products from sellers to the consumers, to the users of this product. But the interest is more in making a commission out of that. Let's face facts. But an advisor is more interested in seeing that the user, the consumer's interests are really met. So there is a distinct, whether we like to admit or not, there is a distinct shift in focus. Now, who doesn't want to make money? Everybody wants to make money. By selling a product and then forget about it and then pocket the commission and then go ahead with life. But character, the concept of character, whether we want it by design, is also not relevant. By default, we will be compelled to take that. And some of you many of you would be already aware that when I was talking about dynamic changes, and somebody also alluded to regulatory changes, increasingly there is going to be emphasis on total transparency, and the conventional ways of making money in the financial services distribution business, they will all become extinct, whether we like it or not, in another 3 to 5 years. And I would urge some of you who have not already read, perhaps most of you already read, there is on the website a committee report, Sumit Post committee report, which is a very, very comprehensive report. In fact, it is actually, it's like a Bible. It is about tremendous amount of information or background, what's happening all over the world in India. And these recommendations are now currently open for public comments, and then later on, most of them might get implemented. So it covers the entire gamut of distribution. Suffice it to say that the good old methods which I just mentioned of making money through fat front-end commissions and selling various fanciful schemes just because they are commission friendly and distinctly consumer unfriendly. So those things will be a thing of the past. So therefore it is very critical that we have to ourselves, whether we are required to do or not, we have to step on the pedal and then transform and expedite the transition from just being a distributor to an advisor. And initially there was a lot of resistance to getting registered with SEBI for the financial advisors, but now that number is going up. Every day more and more people are realizing that. And so the first step, of course, is to get the COP certification, and then, like I said, develop ongoing competence and have this inbuilt character. But just by having character and competence is also not enough, because we will not really get success unless we really have that sense of ongoing commitment to this process. That's why I mentioned the word long run. To have long run success, you need to have commitment to what? Not to our profession of financial planning. We need to develop a commitment for the financial well-being of the consumer. That's the commitment I'm talking. All of us are sitting here because we are committed to knowing something more. But that's not enough. I mean, the consumers couldn't care less whether we are attending these seminars or not. So that commitment has to be inbuilt. That we are in this business not just to make money, but because we want to make sure that people really know and they are able to utilize better knowledge towards managing their finances. And like somebody rightly mentioned, it's not just the cities, everywhere in rural areas there is a crying need, as you in fact rightly mentioned. Keyur asked me to mention a few things about what are the benefits of professional advancement. So there is something which is very, very critical. Clearly, whether a person has a net worth of 5 lakhs or 5 crores or 50 crores or 500 crores, it's very important that that wealth, a person who can have a net worth of only 5 lakhs, that is his wealth. So wealth doesn't mean some cut-off points for which portfolio management schemes are being run by big financial firms. Wealth is very precious. Whatever wealth a person has, that's very precious. So this is a very critical component of wealth management. And most firms, many of those firms for which you are already working, will increasingly, they will not go up market, they will go actually down market. As you know, I used to work for HDFC Bank, and HDFC Bank, the maximum branches are being opened in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Almost 75% of the branches opened in the last 3 years. So that's where the future is. So wealth management, since it's a very key component, and the quantum of wealth will keep going down, which will be of interest to financial advisors. So this is a very key component, and the moment you are getting the pulse right, it will automatically mean you will have better career advancement potential. Then the next thing which I want to mention is, it is not just preparing a plan and then annually or quarterly or whatever intervals you have, reviewing it and seeing the portfolio and being happy if there is a 20% growth or 30% growth. That's not just the thing. You have to have a holistic approach to relationship building. And here this is linked with what I have put down the bullet below that. It has got cross-functional benefits. I can give you an illustration. Most private banks, in corporate banking, I have been a corporate banker. Actually, I'm not really the right guy in this forum. I have never been seriously a retail player. I've been a corporate banker and an investment banker. Okay, but shocks are out of interest because there are so many benefits. I wanted to take a CFO certification myself and see what's there. And thanks to him, actually motivated me to do that. Otherwise, I would never intended to be a serious player in this. Anyway, be that as it may. So drawing from experience of corporate banking, there is an illustration which I would like to give, which will convince you that what are the cross-functional benefits and how holistic this relationship building can happen. Now, a relationship manager who is handling a corporate, the bank for whom this relationship manager is working does not want just to sell a corporate product to that particular company. So when that person, he or she is calling on the chief financial officer or the deputy manager of finance or whoever, you see, it's very important to build a relationship on a personal level. So there is a lot of pressure now organizationally for all these relationship managers to get hold of the personal retail business of the official who is holding the important position there. So when I am going to market, let us say, commercial paper or a short-term loan or a term loan to my corporate customer, I also take the opportunity to understand and see whether I can provide some financial planning advice to the person who takes the decision on these corporate products. So this has got significant cross-functional positive follow. This has to be appreciated. And for example, in banking, every day there is a new change. Now there are some 11 payment banks, and maybe in another 1 week there will be some 20 small finance banks. So there will have a lot of competition happening. So that's why I said we can't even envisage how this entire playing field will alter in the next 3 to 5 years. So it needs a lot of vision and perspective to appreciate that. So therefore it's very important to get proper competence and certification in financial advising, because that will give you benefits across functions. If you are able to, and obviously if I talk to my client, he will ask me, are you qualified to say this? So that's where the CFP certification comes in play. So I can't give advice just by Googling or reading in newspapers. I need to have authentic and credible certification. Then I can tell the customers in whatever field you are dealing with. Somebody may be dealing in leasing or any other infrastructure finance, but this is very relevant, because remember, it's human beings you are dealing with. All of us are also human beings. All of us have some net worth, small, medium or big, whatever it be, and it's all of us, we clamor for good quality advice. In fact, I can say very confidently that most of us who are also CFPs and all will still be sub-actively managing our own personal net worth. That's because it's easy sometimes to speak, advise others, but very difficult to implement. So everybody needs this. That's very important. Arising out of this advancement potentials, like I say, I have divided two things. One is, nobody does anything in life unless there is a payoff, right? I mean, nobody does that, unless somebody holding a gun to me, then I will do something even if there is no payoff. But voluntary behavior of a human being is always linked to payoffs. Since we are all professional, the professional payoffs are directly linked to what I just mentioned. You have substantial amount of monetary rewards, maybe not through commissions, but through recognition in the organization, through the fees, which today may not be very high, but when everybody is clamoring for a financial advisory fees also will go up. Then if you're working for an organization, not for yourself, then you have obviously recognition. Career growth, very obvious. On the expansion and knowledge, the dynamism of acquiring knowledge on an ongoing basis, that gives a tremendous kick, which no scotch or anything will ever give. So once you have the thirst for information, that itself is a very big reward, and I'm sure many of you will agree with that. Then this is another concept which is very important. You are actually, by investing in this subject, in this field, you are actually, the biggest asset you have, which no financial planner will ever talk to you about, is yourself. So there has to be, you are developing yourself as human asset. And I'm very happy, I can again tell, it is Mr. Keyur Shah, he had mentioned in this the 3 days thing that by doing this course, you're actually investing in yourself. Because once you invest in yourself, whether recession is happening, whether China is going downhill, nobody cares, because you are actually building your assets. So before we talk about financial asset allocation, make sure that you are developing the biggest asset you have, is nobody can take away. Wealth can go. I mean, you may have 1 lakh shares of the best bank in the country today, but tomorrow, trust me, if the world war is declared, if the migrant issue, which is now having hundreds and thousands of people are coming in Europe, you must be knowing what's happening there. Anything can, we are on a short fuse, something can blow up there. then 90% of erosion in the financial asset can happen in 24 hours time. I'm not just saying, and don't get me wrong, it's not being pessimistic, but these things can happen. But nobody can take away what you invest in yourself. So the most valuable asset is a human asset. So this gives a good avenue for developing your own human asset. And coming to the personal payoffs, like I said, we are all human beings, so we would like to develop our personality. So when you get the confidence that you are actually helping your consumer, your customer, build up his or her finance and use it better, you are actually adding a new dimension to your entire personality. And social esteem. Like somebody said, in fact, an example, you go to a rural area and you tell the sarpanch that, okay, here is the benefit you have got. So naturally, everybody, when you go there, next time 20 fellows will be surrounding and saying, please give this benefit to me. So people will start holding you in high respect. I know so many of my friends circle, they keep asking me, you have never told me that you are a CFP, so why don't you help me manage this, I got some flats somewhere, should I keep it, should I sell it? I said, that's how it is, so at least people start beginning to look at you with a more serious thing, not just as a friend, but as a friend who can actually help the person manage finances better. And this is where I am coming to the last one, is satisfaction of service to society. So kindly view this entire financially advisory business as something, it's like a social activity. It is like a for-profit NGO. You're not doing it out of charity. You're obviously wanting to earn a fee or whatever is allowed by way of distribution, but this is of tremendous use. Now, the amount of mis-selling which has happened, which I hope people sitting here have not actually engaged in, but perhaps out of compulsion or whatever it is we might have. Sometimes many of us have done mis-selling. You will be surprised to know how many lives have been ruined through that process. So mis-selling has to end not because regulations are getting tightened. Mis-selling has to end because we should feel bad about it. But what is the point in my earning fat bonuses and making good commissions and having so much of real estate or whatever it is? If because of my consciously given wrong advice, if my consumers after 3 years, if we track, then those fellows have made blunders. I am an ex-banker. You will be shocked to know. I don't name the bank because I worked with 2 banks. One bank for which I worked for, I had a substantial amount of FDs with that bank for some reason. So it was there. When I went there, I was told, and this is a government bank, I was told by the branch manager that sir, ये क्या FD से क्या है? एक नया fund of funds launch हो रहा है, उसको पूरा liquidate करके उसमें डाल दीजिए. ठीक है ना? No, ठीक है. I know what are the pros and cons of funds and funds of funds and whatever fund of funds जो भी है वो fund से मालूम है वो funds करेंगे. But अगर मेरी जगह में कोई और होता, and उसका hard earned money, there are so many retired people who keep money. Okay, they 25 lakhs मिलता है बड़ी मुश्किल से PF में, एक छोटा सा घर रहता है, उनके परिवार में बहुत सारे घटनाएं से गुजरते रहते हैं. अगर आप बोलोगे कि 25 लाख आप सब FD से निकाल के कहीं में डालेंगे, तो 1 साल के बाद क्या होगा उनकी जिंदगी? So that's what I'm saying. 1 मिनट के लिए आप सोचिए कि मिससेलिंग के कारण, मिससेलिंग 2 कारण हो सकते हैं. एक तो ignorance, still not very pardonable, but still relatively pardonable. हम ही नहीं जानते तो हम क्या बोल सकते हैं? ठीक है, गलती से हमने कह दिया कि भाई ये करो वो करो, ठीक है. लेकिन that also not very pardonable. But what is unpardonable, जानबूझ के हम बोल रहे हैं क्योंकि हम उसमें से कमीशन हमको मिल रहा है, तो हम बोल रहे हैं कि आप ये छोड़ दीजिए, दूसरा रास्ता अपना लीजिए. बाद में 1 साल के बाद हम जाके मिलेंगे क्या उनसे? अगर मिलेंगे तो पता लगेगा कि हमारे एडवाइस से क्या डैमेज हमने उनको कॉज किया. Therefore, I am saying this is a very, very important thing. Mis-selling should not end not because of regulations. Mis-selling should end because we should feel bad about it. There is no point in adding net worth to ourselves by mis-selling when you are actually ruining families through the course of this advice. So that is why once you stop that and you give correct advice, you have the satisfaction of service to society. This is a with-profit NGO kind of an activity. This is something slightly different aspect I want to mention. And with that, I come to the end of a very short interaction which I wanted to have with you. I welcome any questions that you would like to let me. Thank you very much.
Any question? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing your valuable experience with us.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sir.
Good? Yeah.
Got you.